Bible in a minute, Bible in a minute. Genesis 45. And if you haven't watched the last video, pause this, go back, watch Genesis 44, because Genesis 44, that video ended with verse 1 of 45, because it's the climax of this story. Everything has led to this moment. Why? Because Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers. He's tested them repeatedly. He's put one of them in prison. He's given them their money back to test their integrity. He's put the silver goblet in Benjamin's pack to make them come back, and said, no, you don't have to be my slaves. Just the one in whose pack the goblet was found will be my slave. And Judah, the one who wanted to kill Joseph, is begging Joseph, whom he doesn't know is Joseph, right? Because there looks like an Egyptian, talks like an Egyptian. He's begging him, I will stay as a servant. Let Benjamin go back. So Joseph sees that their heart has changed. And then, verse 2, he wept aloud, so loud that the Egyptians heard, and Pharaoh's household heard Joseph weeping. And he says in verse 3, I am Joseph. Is it true that my father is still alive? That's like, they've got to be standing there going, what? No, what? You're Joseph? I mean, he had to probably start speaking Hebrew or Aramaic or whatever language they were speaking at the time. He had to start speaking that. And they were dumbfounded. I love that at the end of verse 3. They were dumbfounded at seeing him. And he says, please come closer. And then he tells them, don't be mad. Don't be sad that you sold me into slavery here, or angry at yourselves, because it was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve life. Joseph understands that all the bad things that happened to him set him up. God was setting him up to be at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Being sold into slavery, being falsely accused and being put in prison, being in prison 2 years after he had interpreted these dreams and said, hey, I was falsely accused, get me the heck out of here. All of this stuff. Now he's been elevated to the position of prime minister of Egypt, and he has preserved life. For 7 years he oversaw the abundance, and then he has been overseeing the provisions for those in the famine. And he said, God, verse 7, God sent me ahead of you so that you will have descendants on earth, and to save your lives, your lives, your children's lives, in a great deliverance. Verse 8, so it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he's made me a father to Pharaoh. What does that imply? That Pharaoh is younger than Joseph, that this is a young Pharaoh, possibly a boy Pharaoh on the throne, and Lord of all his household, and ruler over the whole land of Egypt. And then he embraces his brother. And, they're weeping and they're crying and they're, kissing each other on the cheek and weeping on each other's necks. Like it was the height of drama and the climax of this story. And then his brothers begin to talk with him. And then he promises, hey, I'm second in command. I'm going to give you the best property here in Egypt. Everything good in the land of Egypt is yours. And so he sends them back to Jacob with loads of provisions and carts, because he's moving the entire family from Canaan down to Egypt. And when they got to Canaan, and they told Jacob, Joseph is alive. He is the ruler over the whole land of Egypt. In verse 26, Jacob was stunned at the news. He couldn't believe him. But then he heard the story. And then he saw the wagons coming with all the stuff that Joseph had sent, not just to bless them, but also to carry them back. And the Bible says that the spirit of Jacob began to revive. And he says at the end, enough. My son Joseph is still alive. I must go see him before I die. What a moment in this man's life, thinking that his son was dead, being told that his son was dead, and living these years thinking that, and then to discover not only is he alive, but he is single-handedly responsible for the salvation of this tribe, this family, as well as countless people in Egypt and these surrounding areas because of the wisdom that God had given him. Joseph was at the right place at the right time. He was willing to see that the trials and tribulations that he had endured were no mistake. God had put him in the right place. And even though he could have justified himself, he could have been very angry with God, he chose not to be angry with God. He realized that God had set him up to bless him and sustain him, and that he was blessed to be a blessing to others. That is Genesis chapter 45.